illegal religious conversion. Is that a reality at all?
The word illegal is, unless it is prohibited by law, it is legal. But they convert and they have a right to convert and they are protected by the constitution to convert. On the other hand, you have a Hindu religion which does not believe in conversion. No, I'm not saying one faith is above and the other faith is below. Future can be a matter of speculation. Past is a fact. In our country, past is also a speculation. I have seen Ashtotram, Namavali of Jesus, Jerusalem Putraya Namaha, Roma Vasinniya Namaha. All these type of slogans are available. Evangelization of the Hindus and the Hinduization of the evangelicals is happening both ways. So conversion is an intrinsic part of Islam and Christianity.
Miracles are there in all religions. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Anand Studio. Today again we have our very own Mr. M.R.Venkatesh with us. He does not need any introduction, so I'll just jump straight into the topic. We're going to talk about all this discussion happening around our this whole illegal religious conversion business and all that stuff. So we'll get his insights as to what is the reality. Okay, that's the whole point behind this discussion today. Namaste, M.R.V. sir. Thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, Vanakkam sir. Thanks.
Vanakkam.
I feel very happy to be here with you and your channel.
Thank you. It's a pleasure, our honor. So to begin with, illegal religious conversion. Is that a reality at all in Tamil Nadu, for instance, to begin with? Probably we can touch upon pan-India, but again, focusing on Tamil Nadu, because a lot of discussions are happening today. Is it a reality at all? Or is it just a pigment of imagination of some people, some parties? What is your thought?
Okay, I don't know what you mean by the word illegal. So the word illegal is, unless it is prohibited by law, it is legal generally. And propagation of one's faith is very much part of our fundamental rights. So the problem is Abrahamic religions are protected by the constitution and they are given a right to convert. Now, how they convert is entirely a different thing. That is a different issue. But they convert and they have a right to convert and they are protected by the constitution to convert.
Interesting.
On the other hand, you have a Hindu religion which does not believe in conversion. Hindu religion believes in talking to yourself, elevating to yourself. And it is a conversation between you and your own self. That is what is the essence of quintessence of Hinduism or the Sanatana Dharma or the eternal Dharma that we call about. I'm using the word Hinduism. I don't subscribe nowadays to the word Hinduism. I believe that we are not a religion. We are some sort of a dharmic civilization where there is a contemplation between me and myself. Where I don't have to require an external agent. Whereas Abrahamic faiths, no, I'm not saying one faith is above and the other faith is below. I'm not a theologist. I'm not passing judgment on various theology. I'm only saying practically the constitution allows, whether by allurement or otherwise, conversion of one's religion. And Abrahamic faiths, especially Christianity, is a head count religion. How many numbers have we converted today is daily, just like a banker at the end of the day counts the cash. Every sect of Christianity counts the numbers that they have been able to convert. And this is a fact. I'm not deploring, I'm not ridiculing, I'm not praising, I'm not passing any value judgment. I'm only saying this is a fact. And nobody can constitutionally find fault with this. It may shock your conscience. That's an entirely different thing. Conscience has nothing to do with the constitution. And Christianity in Tamil Nadu is dating back to 52 AD when Saint Thomas is supposed to have come back, and that's why we have the Saint Thomas Church in Saint Thomas Mount, Saint Thomas churches and all. Little do even people know that the Saint Thomas questioned Jesus when he resurrected on, Jesus was crucified on Friday, he resurrects on Easter Sunday. So he says, I'm Jesus Christ, I come back. So this Thomas doubts Christ, Lord Christ, to have come back. And he questions him, did you come back? And he wants to do an analysis. Then Christ had to show him the wounds on his fingers, on his palm. And he says, look, I was the guy who was crucified. This guy would not have anything about it. He puts his finger into the wounds to see whether they are actual or whether they are some cosmetic ones. And that is how you have the phrase, doubting Thomas.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Now, why I'm saying this is the myth of Thomas is not clear. Nobody has done a very scientific analysis. There are literature both ways, and in like Professor Vaidyanathan says, future can be a matter of speculation. Past is a fact. In our country, past is also a speculation. We don't know when did St. Thomas come here and what did he do and what happened to Christianity in this part of the world. And there are people in, say, the western coast in Kottayam and other who call themselves as Christians, but they predate even Christ. I don't know how you can predate Christ and say you can call yourself Christian. So there is enormous amount of data fudging that's happening. But what is happening is that the Christian religion in India, the evangelical forces in India, are trying to convert locals through allurement. It's also a fact. And in the process, they are also getting converted. I have seen Ashtotram, Namavali of Jesus, Jerusalem Putraya Namaha, Roma Vasinniya Namaha, all these type of slogans are available. So you have to be Mary Putraya Namaha. All these things are there. So they are also becoming, in a way, sorry for the cliche, they are Hinduized in a way. And evangelization of the Hindus and the Hinduization of the evangelicals is happening both ways. So this is a very peculiar thing in Tamil Nadu.
Going back to the word illegal that I mentioned there. So suppose today, if I want to convert to some religion, right, on my own accord, because I believe in that, I've started understanding it and all that stuff, right? So that's legal. But if somebody induces me, coaxes me, that's illegal, right?
No.
So that's why I mentioned that word illegal there. But what is your thought about that?
No, Mr. Narayan, that's not there. See, there is no prohibition which says, even if I allure you by giving you anything, it may be gold, it may be money, it may be medicine, it may be education, it may be a promise to educate your child. Nothing is barred. And there is enormous foreign funding that is happening that wants India to be a converted land. There is huge amount right from Vatican to various other forces that want to evangelize India, and of which the Dravidian ideology, which says that we are separate genetic stock from the Aryans that they call, and they believe that they are the traditional people in India, and they have been driven southwards by invasion by the Aryans from Europe. They believe they are the original descendants of the traditional Indians, as I would say. They believe that they are different, and they lend themselves to these type of evangelical forces that feasts on fault lines world over. Now, if you go to Indonesia, you find there is a country called Timor. And that East Timor was created from Indonesia the moment it attained a critical mass of Christianity, and there were conversions happening there. And this has happened not in 1855 or 1747. This has happened in the 20th century. So this is the problem with both the head count religions, namely Christianity and Islam. Much as they say that we would love, you love the world, we want peace over the world. If you love me, you should love me as I stand, not subject to the fact that I convert and become a Pentecost or a Protestant or a Catholic. So the point I'm emphasizing here is there is a fundamental structural flaw in the Constitution that on one hand seeks to preserve the culture of this country, which is traditionally non-Abrahamic, and on the other hand, you allow Abrahamic religions without let and fear to conversion. So at this point in time, conversion can happen. So to answer your question about legality and illegality, there is nothing illegal. In fact, it is constitution. Forget legal and illegal. It is absolutely sanctioned by the constitution, which is the mother of all laws.
Interesting. Interesting. So you are saying that this is more of an organized effort rather than some bad apples just doing this randomly.
Sir, conversion is an intrinsic part of Islam and Christianity. You cannot take conversion and say conversion is bad and other things are good. It is an integrated whole. That is why you go to any of these Christian masses, they try to see what is their numbers, how much numbers have been able to achieve today, what was it yesterday, tomorrow, what could be the potential. So that everywhere there is an attempt to convert you either through education, through health, through various schemes that they bring in. This is done, and if it is done purely without conversion, it is not Christianity. Please understand that. It is if they do it sheerly for the pleasure, and even there are reports about Mother Teresa that her conversion, her help was, or whatever she did was contingent upon your promise to convert. Now you can't blame it. No, I'm not blaming. Please understand.
Understood.
When we are discussing a religion, we are only pointing out that is intrinsic. That is a basic structure of the religion.
Right. And why I ask this question is bad apples are there in all religions. All right. So
Absolutely.
They crop up here and there. But to your point, there's some organization that is being seen. That's what I understand from your.
It is not organization. Yeah. It is an organized religion. It is not a wing of the religion that is organizing itself into conversion. The conversion is the part of the organization. It is a basic structure of the religion.
Understood. Understood. Do you think this discussion has increased a lot post 2014 after Modi came, or this focus was already there quite a lot of years before 2014 itself? What do you think?
In 2003, people may not recall so easily, Jayalalitha brought in an anti-conversion law. 2002 or 2003 in the state of Tamilnadu. And by 2004, she was soundly defeated along with Vajpayee in the Lok Sabha elections. She lost all the 39 seats. She cut her alliance with BJP, and immediately she announced that she is rolling back on several of these legislations that she brought in. And in 2006 assembly elections, she lost it also.
Why do you think she lost? What can be the reason?
Now, whether I cannot pinpoint exactly whether the anti-conversion law was the reason or not. Nobody can say, because it was not one reason. But post-election, she rolled back several of the decisions that she took prior to the elections, and of which anti-conversion law was one of them. So, anti-conversion law has been debated at least for last 20 years in Tamil Nadu. One. Of course, after Modi comes to power, there has been some discussion, but Modi or Modi's government or people high up in the Modi government have not uttered a word about conversion. On the contrary, Mr. Modi is reported to have met the Pope last year, the fag end of 2021. And even extended his greetings and invitation to visit India. So there is nothing from the government side that looks into it at the central level. But the Modi government has also started one thing very important, that they have started a war against FCRA, this Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, funding through FCRA. Why? Because several of the issues that have been finding mass traction in India, one of them being Kudangulam agitations to the nuclear plant. There were enormous reports in public domain and with the intelligence that the church was interfering and trying to create local unrest against Kudangulam. And only when that was tackled, Kudangulam automatically died down. So that if you are getting your money to do Lok Seva, I have no issues, and I'm sure that nobody is going to protest. India is too large-hearted for this. But getting foreign money for evangelical activities, now legal, illegal, let us leave it aside. You cross the Rubicon of religion and enter politics. Not only politics, you orchestrate various protests against national efforts, Kudangalam being one of them. Then it is seen that the church is no longer a religious entity in India. It's a quasi-political entity. So it has its own agenda, which transcends beyond religion. It takes all our weaknesses in our constitution, the liberal aspects of the constitution, to its advantage, and then tries to whip up passions and exploit all fault lines consistently year on year. And this is an agenda that we in India have to face it up. This is a challenge.
Got it. What about the Sterlite issue? Even there's some issue around this was there, or it was totally different?
Sterlite, I'm not very clear whether there was a hand of the church, but Kudangalam, at least I had first-hand information that there were, ditto with Jallikattu also. So all these protests, marina protests, all these places, people whispered that there was a hand of the church, but we don't know what do they mean exactly and who was involved and how. But Kudangalam, yes, it was definitely the church's hand that was visible. Probably they learned their lessons and tried to go below the radar and use other forces as front for these protests.
Okay. So in Twitter, there's a lot of discussion trending around people, their experiences, saying that, okay, I studied in Christian schools, but nothing happened to me. So, and all that kind of a narrative. Okay. So, but looks like there are divergent views. And we know sometimes we don't know. Through Twitter, you will not know, because trending is quite normal nowadays. So many hashtags trending here and there. But we'll wait and see what really comes up. Even the case of, I think, Lavanya, there is some angle to it. People are saying just abuse or whatever. We'll wait for the judgment also to come. Probably it will clarify a lot of things, hopefully. And then we can get the real understanding of that particular case, whether it's related to this or not. But what, if I understood right, is you're saying this is a wider problem. Okay. And this has been going on for quite a bit of years based on your experience that you've seen in Tamil Nadu. Okay. So what do you think? Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, you said something, please.
So I was just going to come to the solution for this, but I'll let you add your point. You had a point earlier.
There is a Christian pastor or a priest after Lavanya's death said, conversion is our mandate or our right. Your committing suicide is your choice. Now, this is reported widely, and this is what the Christian pastor said. Now, there are, I won't say all Christian pastors are like this.
Yeah, and all schools are not like this, probably. But
exactly, yeah. You cannot generalize anything in India. There have been absolutely patriotic, wonderful Christians who keep their religion to themselves.
Definitely.
And I have the privilege of going to Sabrimala from Christian homes also, where they have taken care that I'm served only vegetarian food in the best possible tradition.
So nice. So nice.
When I'm going there. So these also are there. So when we do this, we have to take care that there are people who care about your sensibilities.
Exactly.
But this Dalit fault line, Dravidian fault line, is a serious issue for our politicians, especially in the North, who fail to understand what it is in South. And unfortunately, this has been allowed to fester for too long. And Rajiv Malhotra's book, Fault Lines, is something that we need to look at it. How do we tackle this? And he says in the coming years, it's going to accelerate and deepen. So once a particular threshold of population gets converted into Christianity or to Islam, statistics suggest that the unity integrity of that place becomes a huge challenge. And as I said, East Timor is one of them. Okay, it happened in Yugoslavia, it happened in various places, it has happened. And our own case, Pakistan was one such example that comes to my mind. So whenever a religious minority becomes a majority, then all your constitutional niceties are thrown into the wind. and you do what your theology says.
Right.
Now, this is something that I've had discussions with many of my Christian and Islamic friends, and they say that this is what is mandated. Unfortunately, we can't, and put it very bluntly, give the Constitution on one hand and the Bible on the other. An average Hindu will say the Constitution overrides Gita, whereas the Christian will say the Constitution has to be read below the Bible. The Islamist will say the Constitution has to be read below the Quran. Now, this is what I see, that these are basic structure of those religions.
Tell me one thing, sir. Is this the narrative of just the fundamentalists, or is it across the board?
No, sir, I'm not into, I hope I have not made it clear. This is not of the fundamentalists or the fringe elements or the core elements. This is the religion. The religion has no fundamental. If you read Quran totally, or if you read Bible totally, they believe that Christ will have to come and provide you salvation only when the earth is filled with Christians, and they have their own theological beliefs and faith. I don't intend to deal with it because I should not hurt them. But this is a fact. There is no fundamentalism into it. In fact, there are people who have not read or understood Christianity in full or Islam in full. They are the people who are, liberals. In fact, the more you read these theological texts, you become the core of them, and there is no fundamental or fringe. They become the core of the religion, and the fundamental structure or the basic structure of these religions is conversion, keep away from other religions, call them kafirs. You call them, you say their acts are blasphemy. You have such wonderful description for non-believers. So the problem with these two religions is that they don't only make rules for their believers, they make rules for the non-believers also. So if I subscribe to a particular religion, I may be bound by that religion, and I can say, look, I agree to this religious views. I may not, so I don't follow. But this is exactly the opposite. The religion makes rules for their followers and also non-followers. And Islam is very clear. Of course, the greatest of Islamic theologians have said that if you are a non-believer of Islamic traditions, then you are called kafir and you are given an optionless death. Now, this is the truth of the matter. Now, you can beat around the bush. You can say this is an interpretation of a particular medieval era. This was not intended for non-believers of Islamic faith, those who are of Islam but don't believe in Allah. All these things you can go about it, but the truth is the truth, undiluted truth.
What do you think about this en masse voting? Sometimes we hear, right, in this particular place en masse voting has happened. Okay, that also affects the electorate and its
policies,
the democracy, right? So, what do you think about that bit? Because that's also affecting, right, in some ways.
See, once I have taken a decision that this is best for my religion, not for my country. So that is why I said Bible is read above the Constitution. Quran is read above the Constitution. So Narendra Modi may cry hoarse from the rooftop and say, "Sabka saath, sabka vikas." But I care two hoots, because I believe that does he help me in evangelical activities? Does he help me in claiming that Hindus are non-Muslims are kafirs? If he does, I accept him. Otherwise, I reject him. So my vote is not on your parameter of development, on nationalism, on cultural nationalism, of even your genetic, claiming that this is a genetic stock. In fact, Naipaul writes that a convert is more virulent than the person who is originally of that religion. To prove that he has converted, he has to be more virulent. So Naipaul writes it. And so the converts are much more virulent, that they have to prove that to their masters that they have converted.
Interesting.
So these are things that are staring at us as a nation.
So coming to the last question, what do you think is the solution? Is there any legal solution to this?
I don't think so, sir. There is a legal solution. The legal solution within the framework of the Constitution does not exist. Let us be very clear. Let us not beat around the bush. Jayalalitha brought in that anti-conversion law, but very difficult to distinguish between conversion on his own volition or one's own volition and conversion by force. This cannot be distinguished. This will be as difficult as proving marital rape. Okay, but so you can't have these type of laws. These type of laws cannot effectively be. You can still have a law, but it cannot be effectively be put on ground.
But can that be a deterrent?
It won't be a deterrent also, because see, the problem is when the vote bank politics. See, you have the worst of deterrent for rapes and murders, meaning you can be hanged. Life will be not only life conviction. It is you can be even hanged. But does it deter people from committing murders and rapes? The law is one side, but the practical side of it is you have to. I personally feel that if somebody believes that his peace or his higher seeking or higher, shall I say, goal in life is met by following a particular religion to which he was not born, and he converts himself on his own volition, I have no issues.
Yeah.
And I think it's good that somebody on a spiritual seeking is able to convert himself to another religion. I think that freedom must be given to all persons. And I would see, as somebody who is more spiritually inclined than on a particular religion, that if your inner calling calls that you have to go to the church or a mosque or Gurudwara or a temple, that's your personal choice. But the problem is the state must give me a guarantee that these conversions will not balkanize India at a later date, because history of the world is that of balkanization. History of the world suggests that there is enormous amount of violence that has been unleashed in the name of religion, especially these two religions world over. Now, Lavanya's death is a case in point, though courts are seized of the matter, so we should not judge it out exactly. I don't want to dwell too much into it, but conversions are rampant. Conversions are basic structure. Conversions do happen through allurement. So everybody has a what shall I say, an attendance to be ticked at the end of the day as to how much we have converted, report higher up, and that goes outside of borders. So I asked myself a question to answer this. We always frown upon Hindu nationalism. Why don't we have Catholic nationalism? Why don't we have Sunni nationalism in India? The fact is, we can't have it because these people believe that their nationalism is outside of India. So there is a basic dichotomy. It's a very big conundrum. If my holy places are in a distant land, 3,000 kilometers away in Jerusalem, in Mecca, in Medina, and so on and so forth, in Rome. So my view is that constantly you feel that this land is basically a land that you are living, but your spirituality or your spiritual connect is in a land which is 3,000 kilometers away, which is a different country.
I take your point that there is an issue which probably the government has to look into in some way if anti-conversion law is not the right solution, right? But there has to be some solution.
Anti-conversion law may not be providing an answer in itself. Maybe one of the several tools that has to be employed.
Understood.
And probably that has to be a central level legislation rather than a state level legislation. and that has to be probably brought with appropriate amendments to the constitution.
Okay.
And for example, even when triple talaq was outlawed by the Supreme Court, they found out that first thing, whether it was a basic structure of the Islamic tenet. And then only triple talaq, they said first that was found that triple talaq is not within Islamic laws. And so they went about boldly to proclaim that this is not constitutionally valid.
Okay.
So, but the test will be when polygamy will be tested. And already there are PILs before the Supreme Court on polygamy.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
So if polygamy is basic structure of Islam, I don't think so. Given the track record of our Honorable Supreme Court, they will proclaim it to be unconstitutional. They will say, since it is within Islam and basic structure of Islam, I cannot disturb it because I don't want to disturb anything, because that is a fundamental right given to a citizen who is practicing Islam.
Okay. Makes sense, sir. Thank you so much for all these great insights, right? Hopefully, let's see, we're all Indians. We have to work in the growth of India together, and hopefully better sense prevails. All right. Thank you so much, sir, for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure. Namaste.